4 straight wins for the Dallas Cowboys, improving to 4-1, 22-10. The Cowboys storm to the West Coast and take on the reigning Super Bowl champions, and they will leave in style with a win over the Los Angeles Rams. Welcome into the First Word, presented by Dr. Pepper from the Star in Frisco, alongside Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, and Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Youmans. Glad you're with us. Gentlemen, it's another game, another win for the Cowboys, and the fourth one has looked the same as the first 3 were for the Cowboys this season. Defense, dominant. Offense takes care of the football, and ultimately, first one to 20 gets it done.
Without a doubt. I mean, my hat's got to go off to this defense once again. I feel like each and every week we're talking about how great this defense is performing, but it's well-deserved. I mean, you look at that defensive line, they were able to take advantage of a leaky Rams offensive line. I think they had about, 4 sacks out there today?
5 sacks.
5 sacks out there today. I mean, it was all parties. It was, of course, Micah Parsons out there, D-Law, Dorrance Armstrong. Those guys were getting after Matt Stafford the entire afternoon, forcing him to have a hard life back there in the pocket, and the secondary was able to take advantage of that as well.
Defense, defense, defense. That's all you can talk about because the offense didn't do much. You already heard Kyle say that they didn't turn the ball over, and that's all that you really asked them to do. But at some point in time, the offense is going to have to turn the light on because right now they're not paying the bills. The defense is paying all the bills. That's okay. That's how relationships work.
That's how Mike McCarthy said they were the thermostat, so they must be paying the bills.
Y'all can rock it how y'all want.
Yeah.
And Zeke, I trust. I believe that. It was ugly. It was muddy. We didn't do much on offense, but I tell you, 22 carries, 78 yards. He's the meat tenderizer. And all of a sudden, you get Pollard hit up in there for a 57-yarder. I'm loving this. Just keep winning like this. Just keep winning ugly. Muddy, muddy, muddy. That's wild in the mud, brother. That's what you do.
Just 240 total yards for the Cowboys offense. 163 of those were on the ground. So we'll talk about the offense in a second, but you've got to start with the defense. And they started off setting the tone. Dorrance Armstrong with the strip sack in the first quarter. Demarcus Lawrence taking it all the way to the house, rumbling his way for the scoop and score. Defense set the tone early, but they kept it going all the way through all 4 quarters, shutting down Matthew Stafford, not allowing him time to throw the football. Really blanketing Cooper Kupp for the exception of that 175-yard play that he had. Outside of that, they had nothing going offensively. How did they do it?
I mean, they were suffocating every which way they could. I mean, if you look at it, this defense, it started out 9-0 basically from Dorrance Armstrong. I mean, you had the sack force fumble scooped up by D-Law, like you said. Then he came through special teams and blocked the punt out there. So you got a 9-0 lead early on, and the rest of the time the defense was suffocating, like I just said. I mean, look. Usually they're a bend but don't break. You know, they perform great in the red zone. But today it was just all phases of it. I mean, they could not do anything against that defense. The pass rush made life impossible for Stafford out there. I don't care if you got a super connection with Cooper Kupp out there. If you're running for your life the entire time, it's going to be hard to find that man open. And that's what he was doing. Hats goes off to Dan Quinn and this defense. They're balling right now.
This is not luck. The Dan Quinn and this defense have figured out a way to create pressure and stay with pressure on these teams the entire game. And now I don't know what's going on with these offensive lines. I don't think it really matters because the defensive line, you saw it in the pregame show. We talked about the different fronts that Dan Quinn is putting out there and making these offensive linemen have their head on a swivel. They don't know what's coming from them from different angles. These guys are all getting penetration. You're talking about Tristan Hill. You're talking about Dorrance Armstrong, D-Law, Micah Parsons. It doesn't matter. There's always going to be a man that wants to step up and make a play, and they are being, as you said, suffocating.
You know what? 6 for 17 on third downs. I mean, they're suffocating. They're doing what they got to do. You cannot run the ball on these guys. They completely shut them out and made them one-dimensional. And that's what Dan Quinn and most great defenses do. They want to make you one-dimensional. Cooper Kupp, we love you, but not enough, my brother.
He ended up with his fill. 7 receptions, 125 yards, and he had the 75-yard touchdown. That was the biggest bugaboo for the Cowboys defense. You take that one play away, they gave up 3 points and held him to 50 yards. It was really a great day from the defensive unit. Now, Nate, I want to start with you on the offense. Cooper Rush, the other Cooper, I guess, in the ball game. 10 of 16. That's a great stat line, right? You only had 6 incompletions, didn't throw an interception. He only finished with 102 yards. So what exactly was going on with the offense? Was this just a pure case of sticking with the ground game?
They had to. I mean, you did not want to turn Aaron Donald loose. He still got us for 2 sacks and a sack fumble. So you didn't want that guy in your life. And so they did what they had to do. When you go on the road, there's 3 things you need. You need great defense, a steady run game, and a few plays on special teams. They got more than a few plays. They got Armstrong with a block punt, and then you got the Turpentine a little bit later with a big return. So here we go. Just play the game like that.
Yeah, they didn't ask, Cooper Rush to do much. I mean, you talking about 16 pass attempts. Obviously, there was a couple in there that he didn't get the ball off, but 16 pass attempts. And he did exactly what we always said that he's going to be, a game manager. Just don't mess the game up. We talked about his performance last week against Washington and how he threw the ball up a couple times, and that's not what he did today. He held on to the ball. He got it out of his hands quick and early, and then, like you said, Nate, they kept the ground game going on a consistent basis, whether it was going to be working or not. Like you said, the only way you take 99 out the game is if you just keep it on the ground.
So they did keep it on the ground. 22 carries for Ezekiel Elliott. He ended up with 78 yards. Tony Pollard had only 8 carries, but he had 86 yards, and then, of course, the touchdown for 57 yards out. So, Barry, as a defender, this was exactly what the Cowboys wanted from the ground game. This would be the ideal stat line because you've got Zeke wearing people down, and then you've got the fastball of Tony Pollard to go right past him. How tough is it to change that speed back and forth between two guys that are so different in the way they run the football for a defender to go up against?
It's extremely hard because when you look at it, Zeke, he's falling forward each and every time. He's hitting you. He's tenderizing you, like Nate said. Each and every time you hit this guy, you feel the punishment, not Zeke necessarily. So when you keep hitting the guy like that, you're like, all right, man, we got to come up here again. And then here you got a blur coming. Here comes Pollard flying through the hole. It's a different type of level of speed, different type of juice. And that off balance right there, it's extremely tough for a defender to gauge how fast he's going to hit that hole, especially when you got Zeke over there lumbering through the hole. You're like, all right, I got time to get there. But when Pollard's coming through there, it's like a blur of light, and you're like, man, what's going on? So to me, it's extremely hard to gauge both of those guys because they're so different running. They're such a different running back tandem, but those guys got a heck of a job out there going against that defense for the Rams.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say aside from what you just said. That Tony Pollard change of pace is absolutely everything. You think about his ability to change speeds and be able to change gears per se. He's coming in at one pace. He might start off with the ball in his hand at the same pace that Zeke's at. So as a defender, you become accustomed to that pace all game long, and then all of a sudden you forget. Oh, I forgot he had another gear. And then it's too late by the time you recognize it. So it's great to have that tandem, and those guys are being very successful with it, obviously, when they're consistent.
Tell you what, Conor McGovern, man, I saw in that big run for Tony Pollard. You held in there, my brother. It didn't look pretty, but you held in there. Hey, the young rookie, Tyler Smith, you got to see what an all-pro, all-world guy is. You know what? Pick up your game just a little bit better. You're getting there. Just keep working.
It's hard to really get picky whenever you go up on the road. You get a road win in the NFL. That's never easy. An ugly win is still a win. But it felt like it was ugly at time. And there are ways for this Cowboys team to get better, but they have done what they needed to do. They've won 4 straight. They've turned this thing around. And more importantly, they've set up a battle for the NFC East lead next week in Philadelphia. Philly won today. They're 5-0, but Dallas 4-1. They've got a chance to take over that first-place spot next week. Let's take a look at some of the final stats here from this win over the Los Angeles Rams. It was the third downs, really, that kept L.A. at bay, 6 for 17. They ended up with 321 total yards, but look at the ground game. That defense standing strong against the run. They really shut down the Rams, and there was no rhythm for that Stafford-led offense throughout the course of that ball game. They don't find their rhythm. They fall to 2-3, under 500 for the first time past week 1 under Sean McVay. The Dallas Cowboys, second place now in the NFC East, 4-1. They've won 4 straight. Now we've got plenty more to come. Post-game reaction on Cowboys OT and Cowboys Game Night. Be sure to stay tuned on DallasCowboys.com. But that does it for the First Word, presented by Dr. Pepper.